prayer. We give thanks for this holy day, as each and every day is holy. But for this day when we gather, especially at the beginning of this new year, to remind one another once again to center our hearts in love. Despite all the craziness, the greed, and the power-hungry behavior that surrounds us, we seek to be rooted and grounded in love. And we trust Jesus to show us what that looks like. Amen.
Right. Okay.
We've sung it many a time. We three kings of Orient are bearing gifts, we traverse afar. Field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding. Guide us to thy perfect light. Now, we don't sing this at church in this season anymore because we don't have copyright privileges for the music. But the song reminds us of the gist of the journey from the story in the Gospel of Matthew. It's a story of a group of magi following a star that they observed in the night sky and eventually finding the baby Jesus. What might this well-known ancient story have to tell us about our spiritual journey as we face this new year? First, the Magi. What are Magi? Okay, sometimes we're calling them wise ones, sometimes we're calling them kings. They were astrologers. Notice I didn't say astronomers, I said astrologers. And Magi were associated with magic, with sorcery. They were seekers, wisdom figures, interested in the stars, the occult, and dreams. They were not Jewish. They were Gentiles from Persia or Babylonia, which today might be Iraq or Iran. In describing these magi, the New Interpreter's Bible tells us, they could not be more remote from the Jewish citizens of Jerusalem in heritage and worldview. Today we might say they were aliens. I don't know. Okay. The message here is that the birth of Jesus, this Messiah breaking into the world, was of significance for all of creation, for all people, Jewish people, Gentile people, religious people, atheist people. It matters not. Jesus is God's gift to the world, a gift of peace for all, whether or not we even ever hear of him. He has come to bless the world with universal, unconditional love. And if somebody doesn't hear of Jesus, they should know of that love from those of us who have heard of Jesus. This is a reminder to us that the purposes of God are universal. God isn't working only through one religion or one people or one group. The purposes of divine love include everyone. And the birth of love that we witness in Jesus is a universal love, so there's no room in our faith for prejudice, bigotry, or favoritism. There is no space for distaste for the foreigner. There is no place for targeting people of another religion, background, language, color, or culture. Period. God is about universal love for all people, and that's our calling as well. Now, we're told that these magi follow a star. Well, they were astrologers after all. But this star helps us to see that the forces of nature and creation do the bidding of divine love. Creation bears witness to the purposes of God. There's no evidence that there was any kind of actual astronomical occurrence around the time of the birth of Jesus. But the point is to see that not only people, but creation itself does the bidding of God and is obedient to God. Creation guides and teaches us what we need to know. Now, as we approach this new year then, we can expect nature to inform our spiritual journey. This is nothing new. Mystics and people of faith throughout the ages have turned to nature and creation, seeking the purposes of God. We may be among the first generations, we of the industrial and post-industrial age, who no longer seek to be spiritually illuminated by nature. This is something for us to consider in this new year. How will we let the beauty and complexity and web of the natural world illumine and inform our lives as we seek to live from a place of universal, unconditional love? How do we let the wonders of creation shape and form us instead of vice versa? Now, the story of the Magi shows us that this baby being born is about more than religion, a people, culture, or kings. It's a story bigger than wealth and power and nations. It's a story for the universe, so the natural world participates in this glorious revelation. Now, let's note that the Magi, traveling this enormous distance from maybe Iraq or Iran all the way to what we would consider today Israel, they didn't get on a plane, and they didn't get on a train of some kind, they didn't get in a car. They traveled by foot, or maybe camel or donkey, and to cover the distance indicated by their origins would have probably taken years. It wasn't a short trip. Yet the story tells us they persisted. They did not abandon the project despite the length of time and the distance involved. They were devoted to this enterprise to find this new king. Now, to pursue this journey, the Magi clearly had resources. We also know this from the gifts they bring. Things were costly, and these people were of high status, and they were respected in their society. They were people of means. Their story reminds us to be persistent and patient in our spiritual quest this year. The way may not be easy. It may take a lot out of us. It may reorient our lives in who knows what ways. But to live from a place of unconditional love as Jesus did, to follow the gospel with our whole selves and our whole lives, it takes effort and time and dedication. Now, this runs completely counter to our current culture, which has come to expect everything, not now, but yesterday. We want fast internet. We don't want to wait for a web page to load. We want our purchases and packages the next day, if not the day of ordering. We have come to expect instantaneous results. Into this reality, we're confronted with the story of the Magi, on a quest that takes years, with no assured result. So this year ahead, let us expect to be determined, focused, and persistent as divine love works in us. Now, along the way, these magi following a star encounter what turns out to be a clash of kings. They're seeking this newborn king that they know about from their investigations and wisdom and dreams. And when they get to the capital, Jerusalem, and they inquire about this newborn king, they come head to head with Herod, the current king, who will have no competition and no threats to his power. The Magi end up in the middle of a significant power struggle and confrontation with a fearsome authority. There's conflict and contention with the political authorities, the religious authorities, and the residents of Jerusalem. These are the very people who later in the gospel will be responsible for the crucifixion. So along their journey following a star, the Magi encounter confrontations with political and religious authorities, which put them at risk. But they still follow that star. They stay true. Now we are here because we too are on a journey. Perhaps following a star, and perhaps we think of that star as Jesus. But we're here because we want to follow Jesus. We want to be part of creating a world of peace and justice that God sent Jesus to inaugurate. We're here because we want to align ourselves with the purposes of love in this world. We're here because we too want to affirm the universal love of God for all people, not just some people, say the rich, or people we like, or people like us, but all people. We know that our journey will involve confronting darkness, hatred, injustice, bigotry, greed, in ourselves as well as in others, and very much in the society of which we are a part. We also see that our journey involves this clash of political and religious figures, of political parties, an authority that definitely clashes with our morals and values as followers of Jesus. It's not easy on this path, this journey of seeking and following Jesus. I spoke with someone this week who, as part of their job, was required to arrange for ICE to pick up a suspect. What was this suspect's offense? Loitering and prowling. I told the person, that's what ICE does, loiter and prowl. Hunting people down. You know, this person who was required to do this felt so conflicted carrying out this dictate, but was told they were required to do it as part of the job. Well, there's rent to pay. Money is needed for food to eat. So one has to cooperate. It's not easy. There's something else we notice from this story of the Magi. You know, we don't know how many of them there were. 3 gifts are mentioned, so it's come to be seen as an indicator that there were 3 Magi. We don't know. But we're told there was more than one. They're referred to in the plural. So this journey to Jesus is not something that we do alone. It's something we pursue with others in community. That's why we have the church. Hopefully, as a congregation, together, we are journeying to Jesus and helping each other along the way. This is not a solo venture. Remember, one of the first things that Jesus did when he began his ministry, we're told, was to call others to work with him, the disciples. Our calling to journey to Jesus is one that we pursue in community with others, and Jesus becomes the sole authority for us. We follow him, even when it means being in conflict with the culture and political forces around us. Now, the Magi, we're told, eventually do find Jesus. They are filled with joy and praise, adulation. They give their costly gifts that they've carried for miles and miles. I think of how people measure everything that goes in their backpack when they go hiking to keep the weight down. Well, gold, frankincense, myrrh. I mean, the frankincense and myrrh weren't native to Palestine, so you know they carried this for miles and miles, bore this burden, and gave the gifts with joy. The scene seems like they're being filled with love and joy, overpowered by joy. After all their travels and their hassles in Jerusalem, they are clearly awed. It was all worth it. This past week, we attended 2 Kwanzaa celebrations here in St. Pete. In one of the events, a speaker asked us to think about who had poured into us, who had filled us, inspired us, given us hope, who had poured into us. In the story of the Magi, you get the feeling that finding and seeing the baby Jesus and his mother fills the Magi. The Holy Family, the encounter, it just fills them, and they are able to go on. In our journey, we know we too will also encounter Christ Jesus in ourselves, in others, through praise and worship, prayer and scripture, in nature. And like the Magi, our encounters with Christ fill us with joy and invite us to be giving. We too have gifts to give. Gifts to show our love, our appreciation, our devotion. Maybe these gifts involve money, given where it's needed, given to the community, given to the church, given to help right the wrongs around us that are in conflict with gospel values. But our gifts given may be time. Time given to our faith community, to the wider community, to a neighbor, to a friend, a ride to a doctor, a meal, a conversation. Our gifts may also be as simple as a smile to make someone feel more comfortable in a certain situation. Our gifts may be words of encouragement to a friend or stranger who needs them. Our gifts may be a hug or a gesture of sympathy in the face of great sadness. Whatever situation we are in, we have gifts to give. This week, I read about how people in the Logan Correctional Center, the largest women's state prison in Illinois, in that center, 40 women are involved, inmates, are involved in training service dogs. The inmates teach the pups the skills that they will need to serve as mobility and emotional support animals. So even in prison, there's an opportunity to give. And the women are grateful for the healing presence of the dogs in their lives, as well as being able to help others who need healing and help outside the prison. Once we've encountered Jesus or encountered divine love, however it may come to us, we are not the same. We are devoted to one principle, love. And we express that love through anti-violence and giving in whatever way we can to be of help to others in the world. And the result is joy. In her poem, Amazing Peace, Maya Angelou expresses the impact of our encounter with Jesus at Christmas. This is part of her poem. We clap hands and welcome the peace of Christmas. We beckon this good season to wait a while with us. We Baptist and Buddhist, Methodist and Muslim say, come, peace, come and fill us and our world with your majesty. We, the Jew and the Jainist, the Catholic and the Confucian, implore you to stay a while with us, so we may learn by your shimmering light how to see beyond complexion and see community. It is Christmas time, a halting of hate time. On this platform of peace, we create a language to translate ourselves and to each other. At this holy instant, we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ into the great religions of the world. We jubilate the precious advent of trust. We shout with glorious tongues the coming of hope. All the earth's tribes loosen their voices to celebrate the promise of peace. We, angels and mortals, believers and non-believers, look heavenward and speak the word aloud. Peace. We look at our world and speak the word aloud. Peace. We look at each other, then into ourselves, and say, without shyness or apology or hesitation, peace, my brother, peace, my sister, peace, my soul. Angelou reminds us that Christmas, the encounter with Jesus, changes us. Now, in the story of the Magi, we're told that they go home another way. Not to go home through Jerusalem and have another encounter with Herod. No, they're told to go another way. But also, they go home to Persia or Babylonia as changed people. They are different. They must pursue a new route with their lives. They can no longer be complicit with a leader who kills children. They can no longer cooperate with a murderous ruler. Their loyalty and devotion is to universal love and peace, and they are obedient to divine love. They can no longer be complicit in power arrangements that involve the death and destruction of innocence. So we learn that once we've encountered Jesus, we too are changed. We cannot go back to our old ways, though they pull at us at times. We see that we must rely on our community of faith as our companions in this changed reality. We need one another to resist the forces of empire which, like Herod, wield violence to protect power. We must resist the politics and religion that would deny the humanity and sacredness of every life. And like the Magi, we must listen to our dreams. Dreams which warn us and guide us to ways of peace and justice. Dreams that revere the holiness of life. Dreams that reflect the sacredness of all creation. Dreams of healing, not hurting. Dreams of relationship, not retribution. After encountering Jesus, we are changed, personally and in our political and social associations. We're no longer the same. Our loyalty and devotions not divided, but directed solely to the way of love for ourselves, our neighbors near and far, and for our enemies. And this may very well put us at odds with the society around us, which is why we need each other. This past week, in this era of Doge and constant cutting of that which is life-giving and life-saving for millions of people, it was such a relief to hear the newly inaugurated mayor of New York say, "We will govern expansively and audaciously." Oh, okay. Mamdani's not Christian or Jewish. He's Muslim, but he's clearly had an encounter with the forces of divine love. He is governed by his morals and values, not by the political dictates of those currently in power in this country. And everyday people recognize that universal vision of respect and reverence for each and every life. Going home a different way after our encounter with Jesus, we realize that we are people of power with much to give. We are, all of us, people of generosity, regardless of our income or status. The generosity and giving of each and every one of us is needed for the realm of peace to hold sway. We who have encountered Jesus this Christmas season begin this new year a different way. Having been changed, having encountered divine love once again in a fragile baby, we are no longer the same. So as we enter this new year, alive anew after our encounter with Christ at Christmas, let us go into this new year with the words of poet Mary Oliver echoing in our hearts. She said, "Keep some room in your heart for the unimaginable." May we be blessed as we make our journey together into this new year. May we encounter Christ, and may we let